Hello and welcome to the MAC weather page for this Friday, January 25th, and we have seasonably mild conditions again over the next 8 to 10 days, and then I think we may see some changes, but that doesn't mean we can't get any snow during that period. And then we got a very, very bitterly cold air mass that looks like it's going to plunge into the central and eastern U.S. as we get into the first or second week of February, probably around the 5th to the 10th. I think we turn bitterly cold. We're going to step down cooler, I think, as we turn the page to February, but I think the real cold shot of air is going to come around the end of the first week of the month. And as far as any storms, we do have a system we're watching for later next week. The GFS keeps it south of the state. The European gets most of the area with a pretty decent snowfall as we get into next Thursday and Friday, and we'll keep an eye on that. If we look at the highs yesterday, was 27 degrees, and we had a low of 21. And trace of precipitation, trace of snowfall, but no snowfall here in Breckenridge on the ground at this time. Temperatures out there this morning about very similar to yesterday, maybe a half a degree warmer in the mid and low 20s across the northern areas, southeast lower Michigan into the upper 20s. And again, our normal high is 29, the normal low is 14. So we're going into about the coldest 2 or 3 week stretch of winter for normal. So these above normal temperatures, again, doesn't mean we're going to be 40s and 50s, although with these fluctuations we've seen that. But I think overall, I think we have a good chance of above normal precipitation here over the next couple of weeks. And no doubt some of that could be in the form of snow, so we'll keep an eye on that. The record precipitation for this date was 3/4 inch back in 1898, and also that equated to about 8 inches of snow. So a very snowy day quite a few years ago. If we look at the satellite view, you can see where some of the warmer conditions are as the satellite advances. The colder cloud tops stay in place, indicating snow on the ground or colder temperatures at the surface. Again, the big zonal flow continues to move across the nation. That's what's keeping most of the cold air bottled way up in Canada. But the source region up in northwestern Canada is very, very cold, and that's going to break free here in about 10 days to 2 weeks. You can see most of the Gulf moisture is staying well off to our south. The next system will not be all that organized, and so as we get into the weekend here, I think most of the heavier precipitation will be across the Ohio, but again, not much precipitation here across the MAC and LAC area over the next 6 or 7 days until that system later next week maybe shows up. As far as the radar this morning, you can see with the stationary front off to our southwest, some lift is getting some of these snow showers, maybe a patchy freezing drizzle, snow flurries across the eastern portions of lower Michigan down into southwest Ontario and into north central Ohio. Again, not a big deal, but certainly could be a couple of slippery spots, so do be careful, especially on bridges and overpasses and exit ramps. And if we look at the weather map, this will be for Friday. This is the next system that really doesn't have any organized low pressure systems, but we do have a return flow with a high pressure system off to the east that's bringing moisture to the north. And as that front moves to the east, it'll bring us some thunderstorms across the deep south, rain across up into the Ohio Valley, a mixture across southeast lower Michigan into southwest Ontario. But again, with most of the Gulf moisture off to our south, we expect amounts to be very light across the Great Lakes. Again, much of mid-Michigan will see very little, if any, precipitation. Then some reinforcing weak cold fronts will come through, again, with the zonal flow, not a lot of cold air behind these systems, and then we'll turn around and warm back up, back into the 40s as we get towards the middle of next week, and then we'll watch for that potential storm towards the end of the week. As far as the 7-day precipitation, you can see very little precipitation across much of the MAC area, and even surrounding that, only around a tenth, maybe 2/10 once you get in to north or southwest Ontario, a little farther off to the east. But again, looks like a pretty dry pattern overall here over the next 7 days. And then for that system, as we get into later next week, you can see the GFS keeps that system well to our south. And again, during the periods of day 5, 6, and 7, we're going to see these models fluctuate quite a bit. I think as we get into Monday, we'll have a much better idea. You can see the European still continues to show a nice swath of about 3 to 6 inches across much of southeast lower Michigan and into southwest Ontario. So something we're going to keep an eye on here over the weekend into early next week. If we see a storm on the models next week, then we'll start getting a little more excited. But until then, it's just kind of a wait and see. As far as the forecast goes today, a little bit warmer, highs in the mid 30s, and then we jump up into the mid, maybe even upper 40s over the weekend. Again, just a little chance of some showers as we get into very late Friday night into Saturday morning. It'll be very light, mainly trace amounts to a few hundredths of an inch. Again, so it'll be quite warm. Any snow out there away from the snowbound areas certainly should be gone. If not, it will be. And then we cool off just a little bit as we get into early next week with maybe some snow showers. And we could even see some minor accumulations as we get into Monday morning across the area. Something we'll have to keep an eye on right now. The models aren't too all that hyped up about it. And then it looks like temperatures are going to begin to warm up later on next week. And we'll watch that storm for the end of the week. Again, the GFS keeps it south. The European gives most of the area a pretty nice little snowfall. As far as weather watch out there, not a whole lot going on. We got a lot of dense fog as we get back into the Corn Belt, and we got some fire dangers to the southwest of that. But for Michigan, for this time of year, she's pretty clear out there. Thanks for stopping by, and have yourself a great day in 73s to all.